The left punishes itself, mercilessly and horribly. I was talking to a buddy today. He was upset as he recently got into a Facebook war with a leftist friend of his. I can't remember the precise topic they disagreed on, but he was so flustered he was debating leaving Facebook, or at least giving up making political posts for good. I concurred with his decision and said, look, you're not going to change their minds. You're only going to make yourself more angry. So you might as well give up and enjoy the decline. He agreed, but said, yeah, it just angers me that they don't get it. They just think more of other people's money will solve their problems, or that it's the rich's fault for their own stupid mistakes. They never stop to think about it. Plus, they get bailed out all the time. I asked, well, how old is this gal? Is she a single mom? And how poor is she? He confirmed all three of my suspicions. She's about 46, single mom, lives in a crappy part of St. Paul. To which I responded, so don't you think she's suffering enough? And it is here a vitally important lesson for all libertarians, Republicans, conservatives, and other simply not leftists need to learn. For if we don't realize this very important lesson, we'll let the leftists we know ruin our lives by forcing us to sleep and stew in the erroneous belief that leftists somehow live blissful lives, completely unaffected and unaccountable for their erroneous beliefs and horrible mistakes derived from those beliefs. For example, my buddy is not the only one to have a leftist Facebook friend. Many years ago, I too had a Facebook friend. She was a single mom, aged horribly, got into the raise organic chickens bandwagon, bought at the peak of the housing bubble, got foreclosed on, never learned any real skills, and pretty much made every horrific, idiotic decision a young, now aged woman could make. So who does she blame it on? Well, she got fully infected with feminist indoctrination, and now everything, obviously, is men's fault. Patriarchy, rich white males. If it wasn't for sexism, I would have a living wage job. Republicans! It wasn't that she got knocked up at 16, had more kids than she could afford, or never bothered to get a degree in accounting, or bought a house she couldn't afford. Nope, it's patriarchy. She's now pushing 60 years old and is the stereotypical cat lady. She's too old and ugly to attract a man with any means. She has no savings. I don't even know what she's doing for work nowadays, but by her complaining about a living wage, I'd bet below $15 an hour. And if you were to look back in her life, bar from the age of 0 to 16 when she first got pregnant, her life has been hell. What's it like living in poverty your entire adult life and with 3 kids? What's it like to get foreclosed on? What's it like to be delusional, to think all of that is simply the fault of men? I don't know, because I didn't screw up like she did, but I'd hate to find out. Take, for example, another friend of my friend. This guy was an ardent leftist. The government needs to pay for this. The government needs to pay for that. Why we deserve a basic guaranteed income. We deserve free health care and education. And by God, if it weren't for those evil, rich, fat cats and 1%ers, we'd have the American dream we were all entitled to. Good for him. It's nice to have dreams. The only problem is he mixed those dreams up with a heroin addiction and now, at the age of 48, is homeless, stuck in Minnesota while winter is upon us, and was hitting my buddy up for money to pay for a hotel for just one night. I just need money for one night and I'll get back on my feet. Sure you will, Skippy. Point again is, I don't know what it's like to be homeless. I don't know what it's like to be 48 and bumming money off of people for lodging for one night. And I sure as hell made sure I would not be homeless as Minnesota's winter was upon me. All I know is, I sure the hell never want to. And if you don't know a feminist cat lady or a 48-year-old heroin addict, I'm sure you can throw a stone and hit any one of millions of millennial and Gen X liberal arts students who could not bow down enough at the altar of leftism and could not spend enough at a worthless liberal arts college. At best, they're working as baristas at your local coffee shop, some well into their 40s. At worst, they're resorting to living in cars and prostitution as they're zealously committed to their ideological religion more than their own well-being. But I don't know what these things are like either, because I majored in a reasonably employable subject and worked multiple jobs if necessary, so I didn't have to blow dick in a back alley to make rent. I could go on. Women who love government checks more than a husband, now aged spinsters with no one to love them, let alone visit them. Our poorest community, that would be the black community, blindly believing in government and Obama instead of themselves and the individual. Now they can only point to Detroit and Compton as the pinnacles of Democrat leftist achievement. The millions of aged baby boomer hippies who didn't save up enough for retirement and now desperately rely on Social Security. And heaven help the Gen Zers and millennials who actually believe in the 31 flavors of gender, or were forced to at the age of 7. Male, female, bi, and gay, I can understand. But the lifelong mental insanity they self-inflicted on themselves with zero, pansexual, transapiosexual, or whatever other bupkis has seemingly only translated into mental illness, a 40% self-deletion attempt rate, and a life of mental hell. Millions, and I would contend all leftists in some way or another, are suffering horribly, living the lives they do. But there is one simple variable running in the background that explains it all and ties them all together. And it explains why no Republican, Libertarian, Conservative, or simply non-leftist has to raise a finger or their voice to get their pound of flesh out of the leftists who vote to parasite off of them. Leftists ignore the reality principle. Leftists ignore reality. And when you choose to ignore reality, living your life and basing your decisions in a leftist utopian la-la land, the real world will come down on you like a 100-megaton bomb and cause such unimaginable pain and agony, even I don't wish it on the majority of leftists who inflict it upon themselves. For example, the reality of the labor market is that people demand things they want. And if you were to make a list of everybody's Christmas wish list, it is going to be populated with electronic gadgets, cell phones, computers, laptops, vehicles, clothes, games, drones, and a panoply of other goodies. Consider more boring necessities your old man wants, and you add tools, gas, insurance, home repairs, auto repairs, lawnmowers, and a whole bunch of other stuff. But if you were to list the trades, professions, and skills that go into making and providing these things to the market, you will find none of them require people with women's studies skills, or critical thinking skills, or literature and poetry skills, or communications skills. They need engineers, accountants, actuaries, tradesmen, metalsmithers, and a whole host of other people who actually provide value to the rest of society. But this harsh reality of having to work for a living, providing value to others, working a job you don't necessarily like, never dawns on the majority of American high school graduates. It's antithetical to leftist thought. And so what do 67% of them do? They major in the liberal arts. They follow their heart because the money will follow. They're going to major in something because at the wise age of 18, they're going to change the world. Now, I don't have to explain to you what happens in a short 4 to 8 years, depending on if they're dumb enough to get advanced degrees in these fields. For a while, they glibly and arrogantly lectured your chemical engineering majoring ass about how you were polluting the environment and you weren't helping society, and how great they were raising awareness about the 3 out of every 2 women being raisined on campus. After graduation, after all the graduation parties, after all the pomp and circumstance was over, and after their parents and relatives are done kissing their asses, the rest of the remaining 55 years of their lives started. And all of those 55 years will entail a hell of poverty, scraping by, begging for grant money, and vainly trying to validate their value to society as a single mom in East St. Paul earning below $15 an hour on Facebook. Their lives are over. They've reached their peak. The remaining 2/3 of their lives are now downhill and, frankly, pointless. Let's take another example. Feminism. Feminism is communism with tits. That's really all it is. Abdicate love, jettison pair bonding, and ignore your biological desire to get married and have some little rugrats. Those really smart 60s feminists came up with some theories about the sexual dynamics between men and women that in a short 60 years obviously obsoletes and replaces 2 million years of human evolution. And most women, sadly leftist or not, but disproportionately leftist, bought it. Women don't need no man. Fish, bicycle, you can have it all. Have you seen the first test subjects this poppycock was tried on? You probably haven't noticed because the human eye is naturally gravitated towards youth and beauty, but look around at all the single baby boomer women. Short hair, no ring, wrinkly, aged, and alone. And it isn't because they're widowed. They're the ones who wanted it all, and by gum, Oprah, feminists, media, and the government told them they could have it. Heck, Obama, with The Life of Julia, would pay for it with a government check. And so off to have careers, children, husbands, and the inevitable divorce and mentally ill children that comes with biting off more than you can chew and outsourcing everything to daycare. And thus, instead of a Norman Rockwell nuclear family Christmas, you have what you got now. A broken family with rando step half-brothers/sisters plus meet mom's new boyfriend and his bastard children from 3 different mothers type of Christmas. The larger point is no little grandchildren are going to be there. No husband or pair bonding will be there either. Feminists celebrate Christmas alone as they cuddle up to and kiss their government grant check. Look out for paper cuts on your lip. And just for good measure, a third example, millennial male feminists. Heaven help them. These effeminate boys actually think that if they agree with women, parroting the leftist talking points they think women want to hear, they're going to get laid. In one ear, their biology is screaming for them to get laid. In the other ear, leftism is screaming at them to do the precise opposite of what's going to get them laid. Not only does this damn them to the world of perma-virgins and perma-friend zones, it condemns them to at least a decade of confusion. And given the overpowering biological urges they have, running smack dab against what leftism and feminism tells them to do, I can only imagine a 7-year-old raised to be transgendered by his vegan parents would suffer more mental pain and agony than anyone else in this lost generation of boys. At best, you're Jonathan McIntosh, because you're not collecting a government check. At worst, you're a NEET. But regardless, you're never getting laid in your life. The point is, even if you gathered all of your Republican, conservative, libertarian, and simply non-leftist buddies and sat and conspired for weeks to concoct the most painful, horrific, devastating form of revenge on just one single leftist, the level of revenge you would exact wouldn't even compare to the lives leftists have chosen to live for themselves. And the reason why is that living outside the real world of economics, romance, love, logic, psychology, sex, friendship, and career ensures you will ruin those things forever in your life. And not only will you ruin them, they will torture you in every single one of those capacities until you are dead. Your life will not be merely wasted like a happy drunk or pothead. It will be tortured, as your adamant and desperate belief in leftism never jives with reality. Again, if you think about it, it's a punishment you'd think twice about meeting. So this Christmas, and for the rest of your life, do not let leftists, or the fact they're getting free money, or voting against freedom, or voting to increase your taxes, lessen your finite time on this planet. Though they'll never admit it, they are getting punished enough. Just be happy and take solace in the sanity, serenity, and good mental health that comes with living in the real world. And as the impoverished single mom feminist screams at you on the internet, or the black nurse says white women should kill their babies, or a university allows you to self-identify as a different race, just pour yourself a drink, throw on some jazz, appreciate your non-leftist friends, share this post with some fellow conservatives, and enjoy the decline.